Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Took a big sip for all of us. Happy New Year. The first Zoom of 2023. And I'm assuming there's no children on for today's Zoom with the topic at hand, but I just think it's pretty funny that it's the first Zoom of 2023 and it's the first time we're all excited to talk about getting fucked. So there's that little foray into the year. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I hope that whether you were low key, whether you went and did your thing, whatever the case may be, you're home resting and feeling good. Oh, I didn't take the waiting room off. 1 sec. Okay, cool. So let's get into it. Today's topic is about the obvious, and I'm really kind of wanting to get a feel before we jump in. I want to know, those of you, tell me in the chat, what was your first thought when you saw today's topic? What were you thinking? Were you curious about anything? Were you nervous about anything? Were you hoping something gets talked about specifically? Just if you're willing to, I'm hoping by the end of this, we're all feeling a lot more comfy. But if you're so brave to kick us off, tell me in the chat, what were you thinking as soon as you saw that the topic was sex? Or better yet, sexy time, which is what I titled my notes. Sexy time. What was everyone's first thought? It would be cool to have a sex drive again. Aw, Izzy, that would be cool. I'm hoping to get some ideas to want to have sex more. Yep. All right. Well, I voted for it, even though I thought this is probably going to mostly be for couples. I'm going to try, and I mean, there's not a whole lot that is about the mindset aspect of the stuff we're going to talk about today that doesn't apply solo, but I'm going to try and involve solo stuff as much as I can today, because I thought of that as well. We have a lot of clients who are not having sex with anyone right now, so except themselves. So I'm going to try and include that as much as I can. All right. So usually I see a combo of both. I see those who have reduced sex drive, and then I have those who have hyper sex drive. And I think in between and throughout both sides of those spectrums are also people that have a whole history of not so great times involving sex. So maybe it's just that it doesn't, you're not totally against it, but the thought that goes into it outweighs the benefit, or maybe there was a bunch of stuff. So I'm hoping that we can get through it today. And I know it's a very vulnerable topic, but I want to make sure, because there is so much to this, that if there's something that I'm either kind of going in the direction of that you're really feeling, or you want to make sure I mention it, tell me in the chat, even if you said it to privately. Okay. I will try my damnedest to not miss that it's private, and I will not read it out loud. So you're always welcome to text me, to message me anything in the chat here privately. So let's get into it. So I think that there are 3 big pillars in terms of good sex in my eyes. And I think number 1, I'm going to break these down more, but turn my phone off. It is blowing up. Do not disturb. Okay. Now my ADD can focus too. So the 3 pillars for good sex, in my opinion: 1, being present and focused on current sensations. It sounds obvious, but for anyone who has kind of a riddled past with intimacy or with sex or anything like that, that can be the hardest one, is even just like recognizing the sensations that are currently happening without being so in your head about something that you have to like remind yourself, like, oh, wait, I'm having sex. Okay, wait, back to this. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that and again, that could be for a million reasons if that's the case. Number 2, being present and focused on seeking pleasure, whether it's a 1, 2, or more person thing. We're sex positive in here. We don't judge. I don't care. You could tell me you have an affinity for stuffed animals, and I'd be like, sweet. I don't know. You can probably save on condoms, I guess. I don't know. I really don't care. Nothing shocks me. So I think focusing on seeking pleasure out, no matter what, if it's a 1, 2, or more person kind of spiel, we forget that that's an okay thing to do. And we forget that that could be different in what that pleasure is from person to person based on a bunch of stuff, right? And then 3, communication of turn-ons and compromises, which I think is a little bit sexier way of saying, a fun way to talk about consent and needs. So I like to say turn-ons and compromises. So from these 3, what I'm going to read the chat here, but from these 3, what stands out to you guys? What do you connect with? What feels like was a problem, is a problem? Give me a little bit of feedback in the chat. Let's see. Oh, Mo, that's a great topic. I see your question here. More tips on how to deal with sex partners wanting you to do things your body physically can't anymore, and how to deal with that when you're a kinky broad. I love that one. Can I ask you a huge favor at the end? Can you remind me that question again? Because I'm hoping we're gonna have lots of chatter and I don't want to miss it, but I definitely want to answer that because that's really, really good. Okay. I struggle with being in the present moment. HS is so self-esteem crippling. I tend to find myself most relaxed when I've drank. That is such a common thing. Such a common thing. Okay. And we're gonna get into in terms of, I guess that kind of goes in a similar pattern, right? Because Mo, you're talking about the physical aspect of stuff, and Corley, you're talking about the emotional aspect of stuff, feeling self-conscious or just very overly aware of your body. And I think that those are kind of 2 peas in a pod, kind of, illness robs so much from us. And I think what the biggest thing that illness creates is an audience that we don't want. So if you're trying to do something like you're trying to have sex, and here you go, you now have an audience into your illness, your chronic illness, something that you just don't want to even look at or deal with yourself, now is on display for somebody else in the most vulnerable moment that you could share with them. So it's understandable being like, thinking, what does it look like? Not only that, the pain, HS can be extremely painful. Mo, forcing yourself to contort into different positions that you used to do, right, be painful, so all of that kind of takes a hit at, it's your self-esteem, but it's also your identity, right? Like there is some outside force you can't control that is changing up how you give or receive pleasure. And I think that is like, that really takes a lot from us. So I guess my question would be, trying to think. My ADHD has like 15 questions that it wants me to ask, but ultimately, what is it that you wish you could do? And this is, I guess, fitting for both of you, but what do you wish you could do sex-wise that illness takes away from you? Is it how you would display yourself? Is it the positions you do, what you do? Like, I don't care. We can get as explicit as anyone else is willing to be. But what would it be? Would it be something as simple as keeping the lights on, wanting to do it more? What is something, and this goes for anyone, that you would want to do unapologetically while having sex that you feel your illness prevents you from? Tammy, you want to come join the sex talk? No, you're just going to look like you want to get picked up and then run away. Okay. It's a deep question. What do you wish that you could unapologetically do in bed that you feel like illness prevents you from? Positions are hard now. No pun intended. Pun intended. Even vanilla missionary is difficult on my body. So this is, I don't mean for this to sound ableist, because for all I know, you might have friggin' done this already, right? But I guess all I can do is answer how I would if I was in the same situation, right? And I would try to find other ways to make it feel good, look good, whatever, that are really for my body to be able to feel its best. Meaning, if I go to a house, I'm not going to ask them to have it. Like, I'm not even going to tell them my dietary restrictions. I'm just going to bring my own shit, and I'm going to bring enough for everybody. And I'm going to make it seem like I brought this for everyone, but really it's so that I can eat. So if you have, and again, I don't know if you tried this already, but if you have your own like set of like body approved positions, I don't know, it could be stuff besides sex, but whatever, you have your plan, your go-tos that, let's say on certain days where you're cannot, You know, you have, this is my, I don't want to say plan of mediocrity because it's like the last word you want to involve with sex, but kind of the same thing where it's like, I have my baseline for the bad days. I have my, here's a little bit more elevated for the good days, you know, and take it as it comes. And then the other thing is, I can't imagine sex being good with a partner who you can't be open and honest about your struggles with. Honestly, that's part of this communication, being present, everything. You know, yeah, I mean, we all get horny, we all want to have sex, right? But if you're single and you're going to be with someone, it's almost like what's the point of bad sex? And like you could have probably have better sex on your own, you know, than having bad sex with someone else. And if you feel at all withheld or weird or anything in describing how you can have good sex too, then that partner is probably not going to be very pleasure giving. And that's a huge red flag. And you're probably better off putting some new batteries in something and just taking care of it yourself. Honestly, it's not even worth leaving your house. But that, again, I don't mean for that to sound ableist. It's the only way I know to answer that would be to what I could think to do in that situation or how I would spin it to myself. I hope it helped. And then in terms of, let's see, correlate, animals. No. Okay. I don't know why I just called out to them in an old money fashion, but it worked. So they stopped barking. Let's see, just enjoying it and not feel like it's a chore. Okay. So when you are, well, for your partner, do they ever lead on or tell you that HS is ever even a factor? And is it a matter of physical comfort, or are you saying even just knowing that these breakouts are there makes me self-conscious? Because it's going to sound like a simple thing, but I'd venture to say if you were having the sex of your life, letting that HS hang out and just like, you know, going out or whatever, I would say most partners would probably be like, oh my God, this is amazing. What's going on? This is great. Like, I'm gonna buckle up for this. They would not see marks. They wouldn't see anything more than they would see a chipped pedicure. You know, it's like when there's something very particular going down. I don't know that there's much capacity for brain to be elsewhere, you know? So it's similar to when we're out in public and like, we're very aware of our size, where people around us they would never even remember that they saw us on the street. Everyone's kind of wrapped up in their own thing to notice. Or has it been something that's been discussed, or if it's painful, you know? Let's see. It's honestly all mental for me. My husband doesn't care about my HS. Yeah. So that doesn't make it any easier, but it does give you a place to try to change the inner dialogue, because it's proven, it's a CIA friggin' tactic. You could brainwash somebody by just repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And internally and throughout society, a lot of these inner beauty standards and comparisons and you know, criticisms and everything has been drilled into our head everywhere we look for how long now, of what perfect is, or hot or sexy or whatever is. So really, that's been our brainwashing. To change that, we're not gonna, and I hate the term fake it till you make it. I don't, but in a way, until we unless we fake that dialogue changing and we decide to like brainwash ourselves out of it, basically, we're not going to really feel or believe it at first. It takes that repetition, that exposure, that walking away from a situation being like, wow, I really enjoyed myself and that went okay. It just gets a little bit easier. And having the support to talk to people who get it, you know, like us here, it helps it. It does. So nothing we say today is going to be like abracadabra, you don't give a shit anymore. This stuff is really deep rooted, but and not that I think that it's the first time you realize that it's mental for you and he doesn't care, but if it helps going forward to test the waters, purposely try to have sex as if you don't even know what HS is, and then see how it is on the other side of that. How nothing's changed for the worse. If anything, you just had great sex. And it might not be something that feels natural at first, which is weird to say while telling you to have sex with your partner. But I think similar to a couple weeks ago, I mentioned going out to a holiday party without checking the mirror first. And people are like, oh, it's crazy. But everyone that did it had a great time anyway. You know, so it's just those little exposures of feeling like it is safe to not have this idea of what looks good and feels good and is right for right now. Like, I could have even better sex with my partner if this is something I focus on working on, which I know, it's not groundbreaking, but um, it's hard. It's really hard, especially when you feel like it's an illness that shows up as a breakout. It's like a foreign thing. It's like, I didn't want to invite this into bed with us, Again, it's not the spice you were looking for, It's very hard. I hope that helped. Let's see. My favorite position on top sometimes takes coaxing for my partner to do naked because of my insecurity due to illness. Okay. Can I just say something that might make it seem like I have bad sex, but I hate being on top. I hate it. Can we just say that? Like some of you guys might love it. It might be your favorite. I don't know. I don't know if I'm just not aerodynamic like that, but if it's painful, like I have to think about balance the whole time. I feel like, I feel like movies have ruined it for us, where they look like they're just like effortlessly bouncing up and down, and I'm sitting there like grappling onto something and like trying not to pop a socket out. Like, it's just not sexy to me, at least. It's the same as shower sex. Shower sex is not sexy. It's like, you got to think, there's not a lot of room. You might fall. It's just not, it's just for aesthetics. I feel like it's like this. I don't know. Does anyone agree with me? Or we got people in here like, I love being on top, which is so cool. And I'm so jealous, but I just can't. It's not my thing. I'm a bottom too. Yes, I love it. Shower sex is dangerous. I would need a shower chair. Oh my God. You can get one from like CVS or something. No, the first time I tried to have shower sex with Nick was at my old apartment, and he fell out of the shower and took the whole shower curtain and everything out with him, got bruised because it was a tiny ass bathroom, and he like fell on the sink. It was like this is just for the movies, man. I love on top. I'll be doing it on top when I'm 90. Okay, so then wait, we got to fix this, because if you love it, and like it's not just like here's a little blessing for my partner, which is totally okay, as long as it's a give and take, then yeah, okay. So you love it, right? So what's the thing that, like, I'm going to encourage you to say the embarrassing thing, right? Like, say what would be the worst thing about you not thinking of what your body's looking like or doing at that moment, but thinking about what you're feeling at that moment, being present and focused on current sensations and seeking pleasure. What would you be doing differently than how it's been as you've been more insecure? Does that make sense? I feel like my body is so jiggly without clothes in that position. I'm going to tell you something that blew my mind. Usually people like the jiggle. You ever watch someone dance and they like don't have very much like movement or anything? You're kind of looking at them and you're like, what are you doing? Or like if you've ever danced and in your head you feel like you're very like animated or whatever, and you've seen it back and you're like, I look like I'm bored, like I'm barely moving, right? So perception of how we're moving is different than how it presents. Or in theater, they tell you like basically you have to yell and over enunciate, which feels very weird, but to the audience, they're not getting that. They're just getting it clearer. I don't know if this makes sense entirely, but basically you feel jiggly and you feel like it would look bad, but your partner is like, it's looking like they're just like railing the shit out of you, right? Like, because everything's moving. So I don't think that they think of that as like, oh God, I wish this was hot. This was like a little more firm. I think it's just like, look at this awesome sex I'm having. It's interesting because it's the same thing like in regular life too. Like people who you could just tell they're not overly thoughtful of the way they're looking. They're not thinking overly about like how they're presenting, how they feel. They're just living and present. That comes across as confidence. And we've all seen those people that we feel like they look more attractive as a result. It's the same thing with sex. Like they're not sitting there nitpicking your body or the things you notice about yourself. They're overall present in the situation with current sensations and seeking pleasure. So they're not even in the zone that you're in. If you want to get out of that zone and get in the zone where they want to see the jiggle and they want to see inertia happening, because that's like, yeah, that's the goal, right? If anything, it's easier because like it looks far more dramatic than what's actually happening. I don't know if that helped at all. But let's see. Scrolling. I love all of the messages in here. I have so much fun with this talk. And I never know how people are going to feel about it. So I'm like, I'm just going to ask them how their sex has been lately. But always feel free to talk to me about this stuff. I love it. The spontaneity of sex. I have to work myself into being okay with where I'm at in that moment and be ready to enjoy myself without feeling insecure about myself. Okay, so have you, Danny, have you communicated the turn-ons and compromises? Meaning, have you communicated like, I really like it when this, and this happens beforehand, during, after, right? Like you, however, whatever you want to say. And then what your needs are in terms of what you don't like. And now nobody wants to feel like a nag if what they don't like is something their partner likes. But that's why I said compromises rather than needs. It feels like I do stuff you like, and like, obviously don't do anything you're not okay with, but like in terms of your favorite stuff, what might be somebody's favorite thing that like really gets their gears going might not be what yours is, right? So that discussion of that is really important. What is it about the spontaneity that ruins it for you? Scroll down here. I wish it just like replied back to the original message. So what do you feel like about the spontaneity? Feels like feels nerve-wracking, feels like what are some of the things going through your head? Paint the picture for me. It's in my head. Yeah. So I think for that, then it would just be a matter of reprogramming the dialogue, maybe telling yourself like, my partner loves watching us have sex together, like loves seeing me, loves seeing my face, loves seeing my body, whatever it is that you're feeling very self-conscious about. You don't tell yourself that it's not true. Like, I hate this toxic positivity shit where it's like, just look at them and tell you, say my rolls are beautiful. Like, if you don't feel that, that's a very bold statement. I prefer to be more like call a truce, right? And if you just tell yourself like, whatever my thoughts are on what's going on, my partner's really down for this. Like, my partner's super excited right now for what's about to happen. I know it sounds simple, but repeating that, what that does, having that reprogramming, again, goes back to being present in current sensations, like reminding yourself of what's currently going on, and then being present and focused on seeking pleasure, both you or your partner. Well, you and your partner. It should always be you and your partner. But, so it takes time, but it's that reprogramming of not so much like, everything is great, everything is sunshine and rainbows, but that reprogramming of like, right now, this is the last thing on my partner's mind. Like, they're just really excited to like do this. And spontaneity is hard. Spontaneity is a lot of pressure. Spontaneity, I would say, is a lot of pressure. Even if we were all, we were all completely at peace with our bodies entirely. I think that that's what I was getting at before with the compromises. Because I see here Katie's message, I love being spontaneous because it always surprises hubs. There are different components to spontaneity. So you want to figure out, what about the spontaneity kind of makes me anxious? Is it if I like, I don't know, I wasn't planning on this happening today. I don't feel I feel like I should shower first. I just wasn't in the mood. So now I feel like I got to fake it. Like whatever it is about the spontaneity, it's not a bad thing. Some people need a warm up, and some people like the spontaneity, but they like it a certain way. They like planned spontaneity, maybe, there are so many different ways to compromise and suit both people's desire, for spontaneity or whatever. It can mean a bunch of different things. It could be fun, like with food. Just because you can't have one thing without feeling like shit doesn't mean that you're out of options that aren't also fun. So I think diving into that of like, what is it about it that really kind of grinds my gears and makes it not fun anymore? Could maybe be the seed of an idea that could become even more fun. There are also the being ready. Are my legs shaved? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm a big old hippie with that stuff. We all know that. I don't give a damn about shaving, but I'm not judging, anyone's setups, situations or whatever. Like, I'm not against it. When I get annoyed with it is when I shave, so, and I do, but, I would also maybe see, because what I used to consider no sex zone stubble was very much never the case for my partner. Like, they understand that, like, we were not prepping for this, so they don't expect me to be hairless from the eyelashes down at all times, because that's a lot of maintenance, and a lot of times we put that on ourselves when really our partner, we probably, had diarrhea in the same hotel room with them before by this time, our partner probably doesn't care, because they're excited that they're, if anything, they feel like it's like, ooh, scandalous. Like, I get, it's like, I was gonna say backdoor access, but we're not going there. I get, like, it's like not supposed to happen because you weren't prepared for it. It like adds to the spontaneity, right? Like in the movies, not everyone who's like ripping clothes off and stuff or sitting there hair shaving ready to go in real life, they were preparing for that. Let's see, I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay, couple. I would like to be able to actually have sex without having to shower and be on the bed and everything else first. Yeah, I would say push the boundaries of what your partner's still turned on by, like, and how little they care about stuff. I think that, again, like, if you have one partner who has an easier time being present on current sensations and present on pleasure seeking, those are the things they're focusing on. That's why the two of you are focused on those three things. Sex is great because you've talked about it, you're both present, you're both engaged. And that's not to mean that if you're not, that there's something wrong. It just means that if any of these three are out of line, then that helps you focus on what would strengthen your sex behind the scenes. Is like, okay, here's where the struggle point is. Here's where we strengthen. So I think maybe try pushing the boundary of not having to have sex and have everything. I mean, not have to shower and have everything all set, ready to go ahead of time. They might be totally okay with it and still great sex, less effort. Something I'm struggling with is figuring out sexuality with femme people again after being with cishet men for years. Like, I feel scared or intimidated by femme presenting people, even though it's not like I have no experience. Well, I think there's a few people in CCA who are in a similar situation. And I think that the biggest thing is we tend to hold on to how we used to act with things. But if we're people who are obsessed with growing, we're obsessed with understanding ourselves, bettering ourselves, trying to continue and, improve and all of those things. Well, then we don't want to look at how we handled something back when we were at a different place, whether it's more of an insecure place or a sick place, less aware, less, we liked ourselves less at that time. Then the things that we did, from relationships, friends, things we enjoyed back then, whatever, if we don't feel that same way now, it could just be a part of growth. It could be just this new part or place that you're in life. You just have different tastes and wants and stuff. So the fear might be, well, how do I navigate this now? I mean, I've done it before and it shouldn't be weird, but really maybe changing up the question to saying, with where I'm currently at, if I want to be present and focused on current sensations and pleasure seeking, what does that look like for me now? What do I need in a partner? And then just kind of get comfy having that internal dialogue. Like number 3, communication of turn-ons and compromises. If you're at a new venture in your life, or just a new place and venture, but like a new place in your life, especially of growth, then you need to have that same communication of turn-ons and compromises with yourself. You might want to try something you've never tried. You might want to cross something off the list that used to be great. Whatever it is, we're always allowed to call those shots. If anything, it makes us feel more in touch with being present and sharing that pleasure seeking with our partner, in my humble opinion. So I always feel like such an asshole talking about these topics. Like, I love it, but then I'm like, am I Dr. Ruth? I don't know. You guys listen to me or not, but I'm leading y'all how the way I would handle it. So, and I like to think I have pretty great sex. So let's see. Top is painful for me. Yeah. I hear that. I really hear that. I mean, even I've done a lot. I've freaking rebuilt this whole house, and sex on top, I am like abysmal. I last like we got 3 ups and downs, and I'm like, all right, enough. Like I said, I can't. How is this even fun for you? It hurts. I got to hoist, you know? So, but again, I was always so jealous of my friends who were like so into it. So I'm like, am I missing something? I'm just not into it. So much thought and coordination that I don't have. Okay, so last year for Valentine's Day, my husband got us a sex swing. We hung it in the garage because there was no fucking way that it was getting used. I could not stop laughing. That is so, and everyone thinks you have a sex swing in your garage. That's even better. I would totally put that up in the house as like a decorative chair. Like, Nick is shaking his head at me off screen, but I so would. That's so funny. I love it though. That's spicy. Fake it till you make it, act sexy, and then you feel sexy. For me, I feel like I also was envious of people who could do that, because that's the one. I have a very difficult time, call it masking, whatever you want to call it. I have a very hard time reacting or not being overly conscious of like if I'm masking during 3 times. When somebody is crying or in pain in front of me, like physically in front of me, and it's just us. When I'm receiving gifts and I'm opening them in front of people, and when I'm trying to act sexy or look sexy. Those are the 3 times where the touch of the tism comes out and I have no expression whatsoever. And it's a mess. But to those who could put that shit on, forever envious, because I look like someone should be asking me if I can smell burnt hair. Like if I'm trying to do that, like it's like water on the motherboard. It's not good. So, but I should try to do that and record it for you guys. But okay, let's see. 18 years. Oh, he don't give a shit about stubble. Absolutely. Okay. Stopped shaving in the past few years, and my mom always comments on my leg hair when she sees it. I swear to God, I think that's very, first of all, very generational. I will never forget. And my mom, bless her heart, has apologized for it a million times. It's definitely a work in progress, our relationship. We go to family therapy to work on it. Not something I thought would ever happen. I don't think she ever thought that would happen either, whatever. But one of my like core memories is being a little ass girl and my mom like forcefully like shaving my bikini line and like in between my legs and stuff like that, because she didn't want people to like make fun of me at the pool, or she didn't want like weird men to like look at me and stuff. And it was very much from a place of genuine like fear and thought that she was like saving me. But there was also the plucking of the eyebrows, the random hair removal, and it was never good, right? And still, when, you know, I think that of all of the things that she has gotten used to me being pretty out there about, I would say body hair is the one thing where she just knows not to really say anything about it. But we are very much not, like, that is not something that's okay. Like, she would judge it every single time if she could, but she would for herself too, you know, like would want to shave before going to the hospital or something. Like that's, you know, how nervous she was about it. It's annoying. I've told her it's annoying too. She agrees. For people who feel like they need to shower, shave, etc., maybe just masturbate together, but don't touch. Sounds weird, but when I'm touched out, but horny. Touched out is a big topic too. That's a big one that I don't think gets discussed like publicly, but I can tell you, I hear it from so many clients that if you are like just overstimulated all day long, especially if you have young kids who are just touching, grabbing all day long, that those clients who have partners whose love language is physical touch, that could be a lot, you know, and especially if sex drive issues enters the chat, it's like they don't want to feel like they're just completely neglecting their partner, but they just don't want to touch or be touched, you know? I think playing together first helps, but I really, really love showering. This isn't realistic for people who have young kids, I don't think. I'm sorry. It's my one in as someone who can't have kids. It's like, Nick and I love showering together. We got two shower heads in the same shower for a reason in our main bath. I don't give a shit if anyone realizes that we both shower at the same time. Again, I hate shower sex, but we literally just like unwind in a shower together. Like we did in our old house where we had a regular standard shower. Like we did this because we love showering together, not having shower sex after the fallout scene. But, and I think either trying to include your partner, if you're someone who maybe needs a little bit more of a warm up, like you like spontaneity, but there's limits and you would really rather just have it be a gentle kind of caring warm up, especially if you're touched out all day long. Kind of slowing into that is a really good tip. You still feel connected and intimate with your partner, but it's on your terms with boundaries that you feel comfortable with. So I love that. Great tip. I used to care so much about body hair status if we were going to have sex, but then I realized he didn't care and then I didn't feel weird about it. Yeah, it's really liberating. It's really liberating, I swear. But to each their own. No, again, zero judgment. I know a lot of people are really not about the body hair life, and that's okay too. As long as they don't force me to shave. But okay, so what did I write here for you guys? I'm not going to call anyone's name out specifically on this question, but if you guys are willing to, I want you to grade how satisfying, not the lead up, not when I'm talking when it happens, right? So when it happens, grade it from 1 to 10. Tell me in the chat. 1 being like abysmal, as pleasurable as a tampon, and number 10 being like, whoo, we should sell videos. Like, rate what would you say your sessions are rated at? Like when it's actually going down. 8, woo, love to see it. What else? 4, by myself, 8 to 10. I love the honesty. 9. I love the honesty because it's so important. And I love seeing people who actually know their bodies and like take care of that shit, like why not? 9, I love it. Now, let me ask you guys a question. What is a 10? What would be a 10 out of 10? We got a 3. I love it. More honest, the better. And it doesn't have to be blamed on anybody. And it's not for a joking matter. He's a 10. Being taken to a parallel universe. Okay, so you guys mean like if you have an orgasm, right? Like if it's enjoyable, there's a completion to it. Anybody here ever have an issue with completion with having an orgasm? Never had one. And I'm sure when people hear that, they're like, try to throw all their tips possible, which is probably your favorite conversation to have. I don't have them with sex. Oh yeah, no, most people, another huge myth, most people can only orgasm from clitoral stimulation, not from like internal stimulation. A big old movie myth. Orgasms are better when I'm ovulating, no matter how much I try. That's interesting. Probably with the surge of hormones. Not with penetration. Yeah, Lilo brand. Oh my god, that's like, it's like luxury brand. I've always wanted one, but then I don't know. I can't stand. I don't know if anyone else relates to this, but vibration is like too much for me. Like it's not enjoyable. I think I've said this in another Zoom too before. I have tried. I've wanted a Lilo brand one just because it's so like, the silicone's so soft and it looks so nice and futuristic, but it's truly an aesthetic thing. It's too much for like, I just don't find it pleasurable. Like it just becomes like a little painful. And then it's just like annoying to me. I don't know if it's a sensory thing, but I can't, yeah, it's too much at once. It gets like, it's just, yeah, it's too much. It just becomes overwhelmingly not a great thing. And I've always been like, am I doing this wrong? And then I've just come to realize that some people are like that for sure. and just never talk about it. Um, when I say I've never had one, they think I just mean with another person, but I really mean never. Yeah, there are a lot of people that have dealt with that. Yes, I have friends give me every tip they have. Yeah, it's so weird. It's like, let's just sit around and talk about how to, how you get off, when it's probably like, it's not like you have just been like, oh, I guess I don't get off. Like, okay, like you probably really dwelled on this and been like, this sucks, So I hate when arbitrary tips are thrown out. There is some science-based stuff which you could text about with like different I mean, I think that that's a lot to do with one, how our nerve endings are set up, and then two, our mindset. There could be a lot emotionally in the past, trauma wise, just mindset of current. It could just be distraction. Like there are a lot of little practical reasons that can add to that people want to go right for the sex stuff when really it's like with food, it's not always about dieting, so we can definitely text about it if you want, but I also respect that you probably tried a lot and considered a lot already. Penetration hurts anyway. It's all about clit. Seriously, that's where the whole branch of nerve endings is. Might be sensory. I've experienced that too. There's a brand that works for me too. There's a brand that works for me though. I've heard that the sucking action one, like that I have to have a maneuver with my hand. The sucking action one I heard is like amazing. So anyone I've ever told that I don't like vibration stuff, they say you have to get that one then. And that's the one I have not tried or gotten, because I'm like, I'm going to at some point, but I'm just like, I like what I like, I rock a good thing. But yeah, every time they're like, you have to try the sucking one though. Watch, it's life-changing. I don't know. I've had sex with 40 men, happy that I have, but never had an orgasm with sex. That number doesn't sound crazy at all. Can we get a group deal? Yeah, no. I should get like what is it? An ambassador like discount code or something just for shits and giggles. I had a company reach out to me once. I can't believe I forgot about this. What friggin' brand was it? They were from Australia, and what? Voosh, or Nick is back there. He's like, it was this one. He handles all like the back office stuff. I think it was Voosh. I think it was VUSH maybe. And they wanted to send me one that was like one of the sucker ones. And I was so amped because I was like, I've heard nothing but great things. Absolutely. And they sent me, I guess they ran out of them or something. They sent me a regular old vibrating one. And I messaged them. I'm like, so thank you for this like $100 free vibrator, but like, that's not my thing. I only said yes to this if it was the sucking one. And I am not going to do a post about a sex toy that I'm not going to use. And they were like, keep it, have a good life. They have like a luxury vibrator that never got used. So anyway, yeah, it's my story. I'm going to eventually try it one day, but the Voosh one looked great if anyone's in the market. Groupon, that's awesome. Send it when we post the link. Anyone wants any suggestions for sex toys, send it in the comment link. I'm insecure about how few people I've had sex with. Anyone else feel like that? Insecure either way? Because that's a big topic. I also think that like hypersexuality as a result of trauma is not talked about, and also just enjoying sex and having a vagina and enjoying sex, I think, is also just like kind of a crazy subject. So there's no number that is good or bad, like you're not like praying mantis, like, eating them after you're done, right? Like, so what's the big deal? But I can totally see, because I have felt that myself in the past, the judgment of how many partners I've had, and I think I don't regret it. I'm like, none of the people I was with ever got a talking to or a judgmental look, so well, why is it any more wrong for me? Not to mention dealing with trauma and no support at that time. So there's a lot of nuances that make us who we are. I've only nothing to be insecure about. I've only had it with my husband. I'm Nick's first. I didn't even realize it at first. Like we were just talking about it and like he definitely told me and I guess I just breezed right over it, ADHD. And then after we were talking about it and brought it up and I was like, oh, okay. Like that's cool. And here we are today. So all about it. Different strokes for different folks, right? Um, Nick should do spouse Zoom meetings. I'm sure he would love it. He would be smirking the whole time, bashful as shit, but I think that would be great and we should do that. Catholic upbringing. Oh, I got a lot of religious upbringing background clients. And, you know, I think the hardest thing that I've dealt with these couples is like them wanting to be more adventurous, you know, they're like, woohoo, we're married. Like, let's go crazy. We have no idea what the hell to do, you know? So sometimes those are my favorite couples to talk with. It's like a whole new world, you know? Everybody is acceptable. Everyone's accepted here. You know, we let the freak flag fly, or if you keep the freak flag locked up at home, that is great too. There's a freak flag regardless. So we're just here to talk about that freak flag. Everyone hangs that flag differently. I think insecurities plays a part in my sex partner number. Yeah, I think for me, again, I don't mean to take away your lightning with this, but where I could understand that sentiment would be that it always, because I am someone who has, you know, has a vagina, because I'm a woman and I'm presenting as someone who doesn't care about that number, that there must be something dirty, wrong, damaged, whatever. And it's never been like that. Like Nick was the first person I was with who has never asked me my number, ever. Didn't care, doesn't care. You see me, I'm talking freely. I have no filter. I have definitely brought up stories from the past and stuff, and he doesn't even flinch, right? And that was something that was very rare. That had never happened before. And again, I don't think that too many people are running around asking my partners who knew my age, they knew, you know, what they were doing, they knew that it meant nothing, right? And stuff like that. They didn't get that same treatment. And no one really knew anything about me. So that being said, what does that say about me? It says that people don't really know the real me. And now, you know, it's easier said than done, but it helps me to remember that it doesn't matter if you slept with 500 people, right? Like that doesn't change anything in how you do, what you do, like how you go on about your day. And it's none of anyone's business. You're not hurting anybody else, you know? So that's my opinion, at least. I wish I had been empowered to be more fearless back in the day. Let's talk about something real, and I know we're coming up on time. I love this talk. I could go on forever, but a lot of people, and I want to be sensitive in how I say this, but it is okay to wake up one day and realize that you didn't do as much as you wanted to do in the past. That you're happy in the setup you're in. You don't want to change it. You don't like, you're good, you know, like you don't have like regrets, let's say, about ending up in the place that you've ended up in, right? But you can look back and say, well, of all the things, this is something I wish I had done. Or, you know, I think that everybody, if it could have happened any other way, it would have. That's my favorite saying, because it really helps me feel rest assured that we can only take information from the past. We can't dwell on it, right? So everything, the amount of partners you've had, the amount of experience you had or haven't had, whatever, all culminates to lead you to the place that you're at, where you can sit there and say that you have that realization. So it's necessary, right? But now you got someone built in. So if you work on the comforts of asking for what you want, of talking about your feelings without it meaning you have to change anything about your relationship, you know, that having those 3 pillars comes into play here too. Maybe you want to do more stuff together. Maybe you don't, you just want to talk about it. You know, maybe you want to hear from them that they feel the same way a little bit, you know, like it's okay to have conversations that aren't just like, you're such a sex god, I love it. You know, they don't want that. They don't expect that. And Nick just said, Nick's like, I do. But most of the time they don't. Nick doesn't. But these 3 pillars, being present for current sensations, being present for pleasure seeking, and communicating those needs and that compromise and those compromises. If you're both on the same page with those 3 areas, or you feel connected to how you feel in those 3 areas solo, sex is going to be better by default. And if it is a matter of, you know, I have poly clients, right? Like I when I tell you we are a sex positive place, I have poly clients and I'm a monogamous person, right? I don't give a shit. Do what you do. But those insecurities that come from that, the wanting to talk about that with their partners and not knowing how, knowing how to not hurt their feelings, things like that. If you need help with any of that, reach out, because just because it's a hard convo to have doesn't mean it's not worth having. It just means that it could be done in a way that doesn't upset either of you, but brings you to these 3 pillars, you know? So I hope this was helpful. I know it got a little rambly and stuff, but if you need anything, if you need an elaboration on this, like I said, I could talk about this shit all day. Shoot me a message and we can get into the specifics for your setup. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. Enjoy the rest of your night. If you can, go have some good sex. And if not, have some good sex with yourself. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.